education over indoctrination. And as she's always said it, common sense, which isn't very common. So it's my great pleasure to introduce the leader of One Nation, Senator Pauline Hanson.
Thank you, Sean. Hello, everyone. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, wow, what a welcome. And it's taken me, 6 months to get back here with that welcome. Jeez. Thank you. Well, look, first of all, I'd like to give a big thank you to Topolinis for having us here today and having the function here. I was gobsmacked when I was just told before arriving of what happened to Jamie and her parents with regards to it, and the police turning up here and dragging them off in the paddy wagon, and because they're standing up for their rights. Jamie, I do wish, and I had a quick chat to your mother by the phone and your father, said hello to them. And, you know, it's people like yourself that you just have to stand up and you have to fight back. You can't allow these people in government, these elected members of parliament voted in by the people, they're supposed to serve the people, not themselves. And this whole COVID has been a control by the major political parties and others over the people to control the people. Right from the very beginning, I stood my ground. Look, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, I don't have degrees behind my name whatsoever. But I see myself as a common sense Australian who's probably more streetwise, that I know more about politics than these university kids that come out and think they want to be career politicians and tell the rest of us what to do with our lives and how to live our lives. So the fight is not over with regards to the COVID, because I'm reintroducing another bill on the floor of Parliament, my private member's bill, that it should be taken to the Fair Work Commission that businesses cannot discriminate against anyone if they do not have that jab. Also, I'm wanting to put in the bill that governments cannot force children under the age of 18 from having that jab. So we'll see how we go and see if we have common sense and have the rest of the Parliament to support me on my bill. But anyway, I won't hold my breath. There's not many there with common sense. A lot of them are brain dead, and I will be honest about it, and shouldn't be in Parliament. They're a bunch of yes people who cannot stand up for their own principles and stand up to represent the people of this nation. If you were going to expect a welcome to country or an acknowledgement of country from me, forget it, it's not happening, all right? I've just had it up to here. Every time I'm on a plane and they start, you know, saying welcome to country, I feel like saying, will you give it a bloody break? So I don't acknowledge this to any meetings that I go to. I will not speak to it. I think that we are all Australians together. Regardless of whether you were born here or migrated to this country. And I think those people that have moved to this nation, that have taken their citizenship, given their loyalty to this country, I have so much respect. If you are one of those people here, I have so much respect for you, because it would be hard to give up your own country, move somewhere else and give your loyalty to another country. And it shows me how much you are embracing the nation that you've made your homeland. But I remember one person said to me, she said, my mother and father came from Russia. And they actually said, and the father never wanted the daughter to speak English or learn English. But the mother said, no, this is the new homeland, must learn to speak English. But the mother said, darling, you can learn to speak English. But you know, at the end of the day, home is where you are prepared to die. And it's so true, isn't it? That's your home. What's coming up now at the moment is the voice to Parliament. Like I said, I haven't got degrees. I'm not a professor in constitutional law. I was probably one of these many, many Australians that knew nothing much of the Constitution till I entered Parliament. Now I can refer to pretty much of the Constitution. I've picked it up. I have gained so much respect for it because that document empowers in my rights as an Australian citizen. And to understand what it stands for, it's not taught to our children. It's not acknowledged by a lot of Australians and how powerful that document is. And as the Professor said, the number of times to change laws in this nation or the Constitution must go to a referendum of the people to be changed by the people. And most of the time, the people knock it back. Why? Because you're not happy with what the politicians are putting before you. Why? Probably because you don't trust them. And you've got a good reason too. One of the successful ones was in 1967 when they actually wanted to change the Constitution of Section 51(26) of the Australian Constitution with regards to the Aboriginal and making laws for any race other than the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island people. Now, people thought at that time they were voting in that referendum, please correct me if I'm wrong, was basically about, we were told it was bring the Aboriginals onto the census. We weren't told by taking these words out because they get your approval to change basically what they want to do, but they don't tell you the behind the scenes meaning of it. So when they changed that, the Constitution reads now that they can make specific laws for any race. They will say now that was racist, that they put in there it wasn't for the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island people. When the framers of the Constitution invoked that section, that wasn't to actually leave the Aboriginal people out, not at all, because they were regarded as Australians. It was to be able to make special laws for the Kanakas, the Chinese, the Afghans that actually came here to work in Australia, whether the mines or the cane fields. And it was to actually be able to make special laws to control them in an area. We had immigration, and they came in under the immigration, but once they were in the country, they were able to then make laws so they could actually control their movements, because a lot of the people were funded by the companies, the businesses that brought them out here to work. So that was the reason behind it. Nothing to do with any racist attitude towards the Aboriginal people. Also the fact, as I said to you, they wanted to bring the Aboriginals on to the census in 1967. You see, the Aboriginal people weren't included in the census prior to that, but they were under the census programs of the states. So they were counted anyway. And another big thing that they say they weren't included in Australia, that's not true. You see, the Aboriginals and Aboriginal women had the vote before Constitution of 1901. They were able to vote in South Australia in 1895 and then in Western Australia in 1899, before the Federation. So Aboriginal men could vote, but in Western Australia and Queensland, they couldn't vote unless they had a lease or owned property of more than £100. But women could vote. Aboriginal women could vote. And also that vote, because South Australia, Northern Territory came under South Australia, so they could vote as well. So by saying they weren't included, that wasn't the truth. They have always been included. And the delegations that were set up was to represent all Australians. We're headed down the path now, there's been this push, and it's divisive for our nation, have no doubt about it, very divisive. And they've been pushing for this for quite some time. You see, when I first entered Parliament in 1996, it was brought to my attention of what was going on. You see, I was very interested in Aboriginal affairs at that time because I won my election with the biggest swing in the nation in 1996 with the 22% swing because I called for equality for all people. And I saw the inequality in the system purely based on race. Because of my comments, the Liberal Party, because I only by chance got into politics. I never saw myself as a career politician. It was only by chance I ended up in local government, and from there I thought, gee, I felt I achieved a lot in local government working for the people. So then I decided to actually stand for federal politics. Little did I know that I upset the Liberal Party with my comments, and John Howard was terrified of this woman they started calling racist because I was targeting and I was saying about inequality in the system. So it came from John Howard that I actually had to go. I came across Peter Costello just a couple of years ago, and I said, "Oh, hi, Peter," and everything was, I forget what was happening at the time, but anyway, he said, "Oh, hi, how are you going, Pauline?" I said, "I bet you're sorry you got rid of me now." And he said, "Actually, I was with John Howard at the dinner that night," and he said, "Come up, your name." And I thought, well, who the hell is Pauline Hanson? I said, "Well, now you know who I am, don't you, Peter?" So anyway, he said, yes, he did remember it. It actually came from John Howard. I had to go because John Howard was terrified of being called racist, having a racist candidate. So they disendorsed me. But guess what? The people around Ipswich and Australia came from all over just to man my polling booths, to hand out how to vote cards, and the public support was amazing. And when I realised I was elected that night, it was like, well, okay, where do I go from here? And it's quite interesting when people say to me, what keeps you going? You know, everything that you've had happen, and of course, if you don't know, you know, my time in jail, maximum security, I was in there for 11 weeks, but I got a 3-year sentence and it only released on my 3rd appeal. And to come back into politics, and I remember the media asked me, I said I'd have to have rocks in my head. Well, I must have rocks in my head because when I saw what was happening to our nation, there's no way in the wide world could I just walk away. Because it's not just about myself, it's about my country, my children, my grandchildren, my fellow Australians. It goes far beyond that. It's more than just that. And I've been given an opportunity, and sometimes I shake my head and I wake in the morning and I think, why me? Why have I been given this opportunity to be a voice for a lot of Australians? And it's not something that you can walk away from easily. You have the different pressures that's put upon you. You have everyone who wants to tear you down and pull you apart, or the media want to have a go at you, or the court cases or battles, or people within your own party. It's a constant battle all the time. But then when I reflect on what I've been able to do and achieve over the period of time, I know I'm still here. And I'm proud to be here, and I'm so proud to be in Parliament. And now, you know, with this voice to Parliament, it is going to be the most, possibly, if it gets passed, the most divisive piece of legislation that is ever going to be impacted on our nation. Have no doubt about that. It will be divisive. We saw the problems that happened in South Africa with apartheid. And in 1999, when we were having the referendum to become a republic, I thought to myself, I'm basically a forward thinker. To be a politician, it's okay. You get all these pollies out there, whinge about this, whinge about that, you know, carry on. But at the end of the day, you know what? Stop your bloody whinging and come up with solutions. That's what people want to know. If you're going to whinge about something, tell us what you're going to do. And that's what politics is about. You have to have foresight. You have to have vision. You don't just, you know, do it from day to day until the next election. You've got to actually work hard to see a future for this nation. And that's what we lack, is foresight, because they're career politicians who are only there for their seats And if they buck the system, they won't get endorsement from their political parties again at the next election. So in 1999, I thought to myself, Howard wanted to put in the preamble to acknowledge the Aboriginal people as the traditional owners of this land, and also to put something in the Constitution about it was basically a little bit about the voice to Parliament, basically the preamble, and it was about the becoming the Republic. And I thought to myself, your Constitution is basically the foundation of our laws. And if we challenge those laws or legislation and we take it upon the Constitution then goes before the High Court. And the High Court is how they interpret the Constitution and what has happened. If we, the people, acknowledge and endorse our acknowledgement that they are the traditional owners of this land, that then can be challenged in the High Court. So if we ever become a republic or reverts back, please pull me up any time if I'm wrong. This is just my way of thinking, okay?
You want to get a high distinction.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, the judges now have become so left-leaning, woke ideologists. I wouldn't trust their judgments anymore on how they interpret that law and the meaning. So if we ever become a republic and severed from Crown land or sovereignty, then we have acknowledged them as the traditional owners of this land, and it would revert back to native title. So keep that in mind. Under this Constitution, what they want to do is to invoke a voice to Parliament. If you want to do that and you want advisors advising the people in Parliament, why do you need to change the Constitution? Why do you have to change that document? As Helen Polly, the Labor member for Tasmania, said, we need to put in the Constitution because then it can never be changed. They know that. In 2007, they've been pushing for this for years. In 2007, the United Nations Convention for the Indigenous People acknowledged that they want an Aboriginal state or a nation within a nation. They've given their blessing to it. This is all leading up to that. And that's why you have to be very careful and understand what you may be handing away in this voice to Parliament. When I did my talk yesterday morning on the radio, I was followed by this fellow for the yes vote. And I don't know who he is, but anyway, his case was, well, it's going to more acknowledge where the money is going and, you know, that it goes toward health and education. Well, what's wrong with doing that now? Why isn't it done now? 33 billion a year, billion, not million, billion a year is given to the Aboriginal industry, as I called it since 1996, the Aboriginal industry. $44,000 per Aboriginal compared to $22,000 to $24,000 for every other Australian is spent on them. It's not about money. No proper audits are done on this Aboriginal industry. They have so many departments that are set up. There is so much nepotism, colonialism, corruption, theft that happens, but no one wants to speak about it or do anything about it. That is the problem. And the problem is also that these people have to start, and I shouldn't say that these people because they are people who actually need respect as Australians, as our forefathers have always considered them to be part of Australia. But I get my back up and I get frustrated and fed up, and especially all these tokenism that goes on and welcome to country and everything like that, and thinking that their culture, their beliefs is far greater or better than mine. Well, they're not. It's about working together. I acknowledge their culture. I acknowledge their traditions, by all means, but I will not keep leading down the path of having a foot in both camps, claiming Aboriginality when it suits you, and claiming the white man's way of life to get all the funding and benefits and everything that goes with it. That has to stop. Under traditional laws, to take your motorboat out with the motor on the back, with the nets and everything, is that traditional fishing? And yet you can catch crabs and dugong and the fish that, you know, other Australians can't catch. You know, and they talk about they want their own laws and traditions, and if we give them this, and they want to acknowledge it in the voice to Parliament, having that representation. Well, which laws of their or traditions do we acknowledge? Is it the ones where if you want to spear someone, you can go and spear them in the leg, or if someone's killed a relative of yours or someone you know, that gives you the right to go and murder them or their family members? Or do we acknowledge the fact that the young girls are taken as brides by old men, the elders of the tribe? Or what about the domestic violence that's out of control, or the sexual abuse? Which one? Tell me, which one? How many politicians really stand up there, apart from Jacinta Price, wants to speak about this and bring the truth? What's good about any of it? And we are saying, and welcome to country, acknowledge and respect the elders of past, present and future. A lot of these people, and I tell you what, I've travelled these communities. I've been up to North Queensland, I've been to Doomadgee, I've been up to North Coast up here in Western Australia. I've travelled around. I've been with the Noongar Aboriginals here years ago who had met with me and gave me a didgeridoo. And I've met with the elders of Uluru who do not support the Uluru Statement. This is all by the Aboriginal activists pushing their own agenda to divide this nation. And that's what it's about. And that's why people have to understand the true meaning behind all this. Just tell me, okay, let's be honest in this room. I want to see hands on people who were considering or who are considering to give them the yes vote. Oh. No one. No one. But I'm pleased to see that because, you know, even if you were slightly thinking, you could put your hand up halfway. But if you're considering it, because, you know what, the only one I hear speaking out against this with them is common sense, who knows what she's talking about, is Jacinta Price. And I'll tell you now, what I'm hearing is Peter Dutton hasn't said a bloody word. As I keep saying, grow a set and start swinging them, because I tell you what, the way he's going, and I like Peter. I've got on extremely well with Peter. But I tell you what, if he doesn't start joining the conversation at the moment, he's going to be left behind and people won't know what's going on. And therefore, we actually have to take a stand. So I intend to actually do a tour and hit the road and speak to people and tell them exactly what this means to them as a nation. And as I said on the radio, they want their own parliament. They want a black nation with the nation. If not, they'll make a black state. And guess what? We will be paying for it. Because half the time they can't even run a bloody chook raffle and they can't even, you know, and that's the truth of the matter. Because you don't keep throwing $33 billion at 850,000 people. I'll tell you some facts. In the first census of 1971, there was approximately nearly 116,000 people claimed to be Aboriginal. By 1991, it was 265,000. By 1996, it was 352,000. By 2016, approximately about 670,000. In the last census, 850,000, an increase since the last one of 24%, yet the rest of Australia increased with migration 8%. So either it's very lucrative to get on board and call yourselves an Aboriginal, or their birth rate is going through the bloody roof, so the mortality rate is not there, what they're telling us. There is no true definition to Aboriginality, and I found this out in 1996. And I thought, what do you mean no definition? You all think there's possibly you must have 1/8 blood or half blood or quarter blood or something. Did you think that? No. You see, you can actually for the fact is you were born Aboriginal, or you identify, self-identify as an Aboriginal. All the fact is that the elders will acknowledge you and accept you into the community. That is Aboriginality. So all these people are ticking the boxes. Come and tick the box. No problem, tick the box, okay? I saw a nurse and of course she ticked the box. She was working in Tamworth and she said, if we have an Aboriginal walk in here, we have to say, have you eaten? If they haven't eaten, we give them something to eat, a sandwich or something. White person walks in hungry, there's the vending machine down there. If we see they have no shoes, we give them a pair of shoes. White person, nothing. When they leave, we actually have to get a taxi for them. Everyone else find your own way. This is the inequality in the system. And I have always said, you give a helping hand to those that need a helping hand. I, as a Member of Parliament and a representative of the people of this nation, will not sit back and see people treated totally different, purely based on their race. You help people on an individual needs basis, not purely based on race. And when you see now that these people, and I gave you the figures, do you know that only 21% live in rural and remote areas? In remote and very remote areas, 21% of them. Most of them live in the cities and urban areas. So they're not that remote. And then the health, they have health given to them, and that health van that the taxpayers pay for could be travelling along. If you're white, you don't get that assistance, but if you're Aboriginal, you have that assistance for health given to you. The amount of money that's been thrown out for the factors of what we have given them. And I remember I put out a stats book. If you're Aboriginal, you could have a master's degree. You were given, jobs. You didn't have to wait. This is much the case of today. Today, if you're an Aboriginal and you want to go to boarding school, you can go to boarding school. You paid for the best boarding schools to go to. And it's just beyond a joke, and it's ridiculous. And until these people, and I've been to these communities, and in these communities, it breaks my heart to see children as young as, 3 and 4 on the streets in the middle of the night, sitting outside the schools. You know why? Because of the domestic violence that's in their houses, or they actually get out of their houses because of the sexual abuse that is happening. That's the truth of the matter. But no one wants to do anything about it because you're called a racist. That's only a word. If we are true to ourselves as a nation, really care and want to help these people, they talk about the disadvantage. Well, as I was taught, that helping hand is there if you want it. But you know what? You start looking at your inner self. And the old saying is, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. But if you teach him how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And what we need to do is really start teaching these people. And the teaching is not just giving them handouts all the time. And it's not about, they say they work for the dole. Do you know what working for the dole is? They go and get picked up at the house, drive them down to the shed, sign off, drive them back home. That's work for the dole. Or you might have 12 turn up to mow a house yard. That's working for the dole. That's not the case at all. And the sexually transmitted diseases that goes through these communities is high in 80%. They actually have it. The domestic violence is huge, whereas even a judge said it is unbelievable. And they talk about the incarceration, deaths in custody. That's another joke as well. Because if you're chasing someone down the road and they have a car accident and they die, well then that's deaths in custody. So it's got nothing to do with you being in prison, or they may have health issues and on dialysis and they die from that, but because it's under law or something, being investigated, that's a death in custody. You have more deaths from white people in custody than what you have with Aboriginals. So we've been hoodwinked and we've been lied to. We haven't had the truth, facts or figures. And this is what people need to know. But at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself the question, are we going to allow this nation to be divided into black and white? Are we going to allow them to take away our rights as citizens of this nation? I was born here. I wasn't born anywhere else. There's no country in the world that I would fight for to the death for this nation. No Aboriginal has more right over this land of born the same day, date and time as I have. Their rights doesn't go back to 60,000 years. I'm not interested in that. We are in today, date and time. Let's deal with the issues that we have today, not of the past. And until they acknowledge themselves that they have to start taking responsibility for their own actions, for their drugs, for the drink, for the alcohol, for not sending the children to school, because what they've told me, they don't send the kids to school because the parents haven't had the education, so they feel embarrassed that they don't send the kids to school because they feel you don't need an education. That is the problem. There hasn't been enough hands on the ground with true common sense to deal with this issue. When you start dealing with that, and this sorry generation, the compensation that has been paid out over the years has been billions of dollars, hasn't changed anything. So do you really believe by giving them a voice to Parliament to look at any legislation that may involve the Aboriginal people is going to make a damn bit of difference? It won't. Until we get, tell them to stand on their own 2 feet, that you can't keep these handouts. And I'm not just saying for the Aboriginals, I've said it about handouts for everyone, right across the board. And I've said it publicly. This dole, being on benefits, has to stop. We have got people who are lifetime recipients of welfare. We've got 4th generation now on welfare. And the governments I've spoken to them, they actually must make it at 2 out of 5 years. You will receive welfare payments. The other 3, get up off your backside and go and find a job and start standing on your feet. But that's for everyone right across the board. You might think that I'm hard in my opinions and what I believe needs to happen, but I've looked at it for the last 20 years and I've spoken about this since 1996, and guess what? Nothing's changed. If anything, it is worse. And we are being fed a load of lies. If we really care about these Aboriginal people and the young ones coming through, the next generation, then it's about time we have to be truthful with ourselves, but more importantly, they need to be truthful with themselves. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Pauline Hanson. I've actually got something for her to give Professor Augusto Zimmerman for thank him for speaking.
Aren't you a lucky man? Hold on, let me see if it's going to fit.
Thank you.
Will it fit?
I think that you will.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I'll just, we're running a bit short of time, but can we have like 1 or 2 questions? Someone over here? You run a mic for both, Professor and Pauline, and number 2 at the back there, yeah?
You ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. Yeah, my question's about the Republic, and I've spoken to some Aboriginals and they don't like colonialism, right? If I said the word right. But when you speak about like the Chinese Communist Party, how they treat the Uyghurs, how they treat Indigenous in Solomon Islands, Fiji, etc., I asked myself the question, like, and I asked this because I think the government's becoming too socialist and they're taking over. They're actually using the Indigenous as a vehicle. They're using them, and my question is, like, if we become a republic and we lose our Crown land to the Indigenous, which mightn't be so much of a problem, but the thing is whether we are giving our sovereign rights to to another nation, like China.
Well, I wouldn't say that we're giving our sovereign rights to another nation to become a republic, well then we lose the Governor-General under the monarchy, and we actually will get our own president. But the Parliament in 1999 wanted to actually have the Parliament to elect their own president of the nation, so it wasn't the people's choice. They want to control it all the way along. Well, who do we see lined up? Would it be Kevin Rudd? Would it be Julie Gillard? Will it be... so anyway, I think Howard's getting a bit long in the tooth for it now, so if it ever happened. But it'll be one of the politicians, a pat on the back for their mates or whatever. So look, we have a system now, it's not broken, so don't touch it, right? So I do not agree with becoming a republic. The whole thing is they say that we should have our own head of state. That's their only argument they've got. The head of state, the Governor-General, is appointed by the Prime Minister, and he listens to the Parliament. We don't pay any money to England, we don't owe them anything. We actually are protected under the whole system of the Westminster system that protects us and our rights. That's why I believe it's not broken, don't touch it.
Because we've got to hand the place back at 2:15, we just have the final question. Go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick question. What lesson do you think Peter Dutton and other so-called Conservatives can learn from the extraordinary victory of the unashamedly conservative Ron DeSantis in the recent midterm elections in America?
It has. A lot of people have seen... I think Biden had a lot to do with that too. I don't think he's helped the Democratic vote that's happened in America. But we have seen what's happening in other countries around the world where the Conservative vote is changing. People are actually voting more now for, right-wing political parties. People... Look, we're in real trouble in this country. I can see it. Real problems under the Labor Green government that we have. And David Pocock is the senator for the ACT. He's a progressive. He votes with the Labor and the Greens very often. So I don't think he's up to, that's my opinion, I don't think he's up to scratch. And here's a man who's actually lived in Zimbabwe, was thrown off his land with his parents because of Mugabe, and now he's come out here in his first speech in Parliament basically saying that this land belongs to the Aboriginal people, and I'm shaking my head. And I thought, well anyway, I've just got a few things to say to him, and if he wants to get into this debate. But look, it's people with this COVID, interest rates, recession, and what's happening in Australia, and this push for climate change heading down this path, the increased cost of living, we're going to lose jobs. Industries, manufacturing will go. They will be shut down. People have to hurt and hurt a lot before they start waking up of who they vote for. I am sorry to say that. But I have seen it, and the Greens keep increasing their vote because the kids are brainwashed in the educational system, come through and keep voting for the Greens if they're only ones for environmentalists. I'm an environmentalist, you're an environmentalist, we all love this world. But you do it in a well-managed way that we can live and grow with it and don't destroy our economies. So until people realise that and stop voting for these ratbags and their policies and handing control to United Nations, multinationals, people out there who are making a lot of money out of our hurt and pain. But that's what it's got to come to, and that's the way I see it.
Thank you so much, Pauline.
Hey, Sean.
Yeah.
Can we get one more question from Freedom Media on the stream? People are throwing a heap of questions in there.
Really
There's
quick
one
one.
absolute perler.
Really quick one.
So, Pauline, the question from the stream is with the Federal Minister for Indigenous Affairs, what conversation is happening about what she is doing or what she's not doing as to why we need to have this referendum? What is Linda Bryan doing?
Look, I don't think... what is she doing? It's just this great big push that is actually happening for the voice to Parliament, and they're saying that we need it because Aboriginals need to have their say. We've got 227 members of Parliament that represent all Australians, including the Aboriginal and Indigenous Australians and Torres Strait Islanders. And I'm one of those, 227. But apart from that, we've got another 11 members who identify as Aboriginal. The representation is there. So all their bodies have been set up. It is not going to change anything. This is the last nail in the coffin to then push for an Aboriginal black state that we are going to pay for. They are not going to run it themselves. They want the remuneration from us. And then, at the moment, you've got 33% of Australia is under native title. There's another 31% that are under claims. They expect all but 10% will actually get passed. So 60% of Australia will be under native title. So they are pushing for everything they possibly can. You know, industries, manufacturing can't happen in Australia, or farming sector, mining, the whole lot can't go ahead now until they give us the nod. They are holding up so much development because they want this. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. And the true Aboriginal, the true black out there, they're not interested in all this. They don't care. They don't care. It's the activists and the white activists that are getting behind them and pushing them. The true black doesn't want to. But a lot of them, you know, they want jobs, they want futures, but we're not giving them that opportunity. And they've used their poverty, their disadvantage, their conditions to push their own agenda. That's why it's never been fixed, because that's their reasons why we need the voice to Parliament. Well, I've got a different opinion, and I reckon if they let me have a bloody go, I'd make a difference with it.
Thank you, Pauline. The venue has to be reopened at 5 o'clock, so we need to start clearing out of here at 1:45. I need to thank quite a few people. Washroom Studios for also not only the Alan sing the national anthem, he's also publishing stuff on Washroom Studios. The volunteers or the committee, could a committee stand up who's been helping today? Thank you so much for putting this on. There are a few people who couldn't get tickets but managed to come in today. If you haven't paid, please see Paul Howard. Stand up, Paul, again. He's got the card there. Now, I was going to auction a few items to help the party's coffers. There's some bottles of wine here signed by Pauline. If you'd like to come and... they were sold for $500 each at the previous event. So if someone would like a memento signed by Pauline, there's some bottles here. We also have a standee at the back there that Pauline will sign as well. I think they went for several $100s at the previous function. So standees, wine, give your bid to
People are not going to come up and say, all right, here's the bottle of wine, and actually it's a fantastic bloody drop, it's a Shiraz. So have I got a bid from anyone? Let's get this done, because we've got to clear out of this. $100. Anyone for $100? Bottle of wine? Okay, 100. 200? Anyone higher than 200? Okay. 200? Okay, gone. All right. All right. The second bottle, 200. Anyone for 200? Who's going to match that? Okay, save it till next time. That's all right. I'm not going to have this gentleman diddled of anything. He's paid 200. Okay, that sign at the back. Go and get it, Chung. Okay, we'll get this over and done with. We've got to get out of here. All right. I'm a great organiser. I can get things done. All right, that one says the truth matters, okay? So that's one of the original ones. Now, I've got to tell you a story about this. I went up campaigning in Queensland, and the fellow had one of these in his front seat, and he started driving around town with it, and everyone's giving me a wave. And anyway, they must have thought he looked like me. Anyway, they thought I must have been an absolute snob because I never waved back. But anyway, that's it. Have we got a bid on this? Would anyone like to this? Is there $100 for this? There's 100 there. Have we got higher than that? Have we got 120? Anyone for 120? A lot of people keep me in the lounge room. Any guests that come? Yes. Okay. 120, that's fine. That's lovely. Okay, that's good. So it's all done. Thank you very much. And for those people who actually have joined today as a member, thank you very much. It's our membership that actually keeps the registration valid in this state. If we don't have your membership and the declaration, because it's coming up now, we have to have it in by the end of this month, the membership plus the declaration. Those declaration forms is the most important, because they're making it harder and harder for political parties to actually meet the standards. If we don't get these declaration forms in as well with your membership, then they will deregister us. And so therefore you go back to 2 political party systems. So please, if you want to be a member, you're not only helping the party with the registration, you are helping yourselves. Think about it. You're helping yourselves, because you're enabling your right then to vote for someone else other than the 2 major political parties who are destroying our nation, your way of life and your standard of living. So it's about time. It's not about me. It's not about Pauline Hanson. I've started something that I just want people to continue on, because it's about you and your future in this nation. So it's about everyone has to give something. So it means that being a member, or it means filling out the form, then please do it, because it means the survival of this party in Western Australia. To everyone, I think I've spoken enough. We're all got to get out of here. So anyway, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you again to Pauline for coming, and Professor Gaston Zimmerman.
We've got another 20 just printed off. I asked for another 20 just in case.